Well, a very good day and welcome to the Elora Fergus podcast. I'm Ryan Joyce.
And I'm Barb.
And today we are joined by two very special guests for a kind of an unexpected news story that we all caught wind of, obviously, this weekend. So we wanted to share with you, our valued listeners, an exclusive insight into the decision behind Riverfest. So we are thankful to be joined here with Spencer Shewan and Mayor Shawn Waters joining us to chat. Thank you and welcome to you both.
Welcome.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, let's just get right into the heart of the decision here. Why was the decision made to end 15 years of Riverfest, Spencer?
I mean, there's a lot of factors. I think it all really just boils down to really just the expenses keep outpacing the revenues, and the current economic climate since COVID, but especially even the last few years, is not lending itself well to our types of events. As you know, as a lot of people don't have money, our expenses are now 60% higher than they were in 2019. Yeah, we had a really great year last year, but it's still just, we're not hitting the mark that we need to hit to make it sustainable. Yeah, I think that's the gist of it. Shawn, do you have any?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a different environment, and it's interesting, the buying public out there, they are going out to events, but they're going out to major events where it's costing them thousands of dollars, to go to a place to see a particular artist in downtown Toronto, where they're getting a hotel and all that, and so they use all that money that they would use for entertainment in that event, and then have no more money to do other smaller events that way. Yeah, it's great that they're supporting artists, but these kind of local, and we're not really a local festival anymore, but these regional festivals are having a tough time, and it's not just. And Spencer would be more in tune with this, but it's just not here; it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's definitely. It's a sign of the times. I know, we heard about Sound of Music Festival isn't coming back in Burlington. They might come back in some form, but it won't be what it has been traditionally. I just spent a couple days in Montreal at a conference, and I heard about 3 other festivals that probably aren't coming back this year that haven't announced yet, and several other festivals that are running at huge deficits right now as well. So it's definitely a problem that a lot of people are feeling, and be interesting to see how the next few years pan out for festivals in general.
When did you decide? When is this something you had been considering maybe in the previous years, or was this sort of just this year it sort of hit?
I guess I'll start, and maybe Spencer can jump in, but obviously, we were cognizant even with last year's event, and just seeing where we're at, and knowing that we had to make adjustments in terms of the site and how we were approaching expenses. So we were very cognizant of that going into this year's event. We obviously put on it was a stellar event. It was probably the best Riverfest ever. But I think after that, usually we do a sort of a deep dive within usually a couple of weeks of that, and it just sort of I don't know necessarily the writing was on the wall, but it was starting to look like, oh, okay, we got to look at this and see the viability of this.
And it's funny because the volunteer level seems to have been just increasing like exponentially every year. The people who want to get involved and want to support just seems to go up and up and up and up. And I guess that's just not enough.
No, and the way, obviously, volunteers are volunteers, so they get to enjoy Riverfest in terms of the experience and all the things that go on the weekend, and we're extremely appreciative of that. We wouldn't be able to do an event like that, but it's just, it goes back to the paying public part of it, and sort of our struggles with, where to, we always wanted to make the festival accessible in terms of the dollars. And, though we had stellar crowds in that, but we weren't sold out. And And then sometimes you get feedback, well, Riverfest is too expensive. And that's a hard one. It's not for us to determine if it's too expensive for the individual. Everyone's got their issues that way in terms of whether they determine they can afford it. But we always try to make it family friendly and affordable and that. And then maybe it's just sort of also the general temperament out there in terms of trying to go to things and really not having a lot of excess dollars. But
Yeah.
we always thought that our how we priced it out, we thought we were very accessible if you compare us to other events.
And then you also pair that with sponsorship dollars are harder and harder to get right now with the economic uncertainty out there. A lot of companies are holding back on money that they used to maybe put towards things like this, and then on top of that, the grant money that we do get, that we're obviously appreciative for as well, and also appreciative to all of our sponsors. But the grant money that we can access is actually less now than it was in 2018, and it has stayed stagnant for the last 5 or 6 years. So it hasn't increased with inflation, hasn't increased with cost increases. So there's just like the percentages are all off from what used to work to what we would need to work now.
Did you guys find a little bit to the left here? Did you guys find that the attendees were becoming more and more local, or more and more not local? Like, what was the vibe that you were starting to get in the last 3, 4, 5 years?
I don't think there's a real trend one way or the other. I think year over year it changes. It kind of goes, it ebbs and flows a little bit. We always obviously had a really loyal local following. This year, I would say the local tickets were down a little bit, but not hugely significantly from what I've seen. But I think it would always depend on the lineup, who's playing, where that draws people from, whether it's Toronto or kind of the rural communities around us. It changes year to year and day to day as well.
Accommodation also is always a question too, especially if you're coming to see a particular artist. Maybe you're coming out of Toronto, as Barb, and we don't have a lot of we do have some accommodation in terms of Airbnbs, but there really isn't any hotels. Camping is always a tough one because the gorge is always full in the summertime. So there's not a lot of options that way if you want to stay.
How did that change over the years? Like, you never had more accommodations than
that's
now.
That's been an ongoing issue since we hit a certain size. It's something that we hear frequently from people. Like, the hardest part about them deciding to come or not to come to the festival from over half an hour away is that there's a lack of accommodations in the area. And I know that's like common for other similar events in the area as well. It's an issue for sure.
And then some festivals obviously have camping. We've tried to do that in the past, where we've had would be at the racetrack and set up. But there was always some types of issues in terms of doing the logistics of that. But and there are other festivals where you could literally pull in RVs and things like that. We don't have that type of we never had that type of situation here that way, and some of those festivals that have that sort of able to accommodate that have done. I've seen that they've made a go of it just because they're able to accommodate overnights.
Well, let's take a couple minutes to sort of honor the legacy of the last 15 years of hard work. I'd love to know a couple things, like some standout moments, the impact on the community and how it's evolved in 15 years. So let's start with a couple standout moments for you both of the last 15 years.
Or can we back that to Shawn, your first thing you said about how it started and the legacy of it?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I would love to speak to that. 15 years ago, or it's actually, it's been around that length of time, but a personal friend of myself and John, Marilyn Coop, started the festival. She started out at the Arts Center. She did there for a couple of years, and I helped her sort of in the early days in terms of sponsorship of artists. But after 2 years, there had been some changes at the Arts Center, and it wasn't going to move forward. I approached Marilyn and I said, "Hey, why don't you do it in Bissell Park, and so she thought that was a great idea. So the third year, we did a fall event. Went over, I think it was Danny Michelle and Kevin Bright and folks like that. And then unfortunately she died in the spring of that year, the following year rather. And we didn't know whether this festival was going to continue. And so myself and John Ralston had mentioned because there was a core group of folks who were sort of organizing that event, and then basically said, "Hey, we don't mind if we'd like to take it over if you'd let us do that." So that was the start of it. We, like everything, it started out fairly simple in the sense we had one stage. It was at Bissell Park, and yeah, and it just it grew from there. And in early days, we met this lovely friend of ours, Spencer Shewan, who was a godsend because John and I didn't know what the clue. I could use some superlatives that way. Didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we knew enough to be dangerous, which was not a good thing. But and Spencer came along and helped as a team. We sort of crafted this and grew this thing to where it was. Anyways, I'll Spencer, go ahead.
I don't know what to follow that up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you like to know?
Spencer,
I'd like to know some standout moments, some memories.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's all kinds of stuff, but having the Flaming Lips come play the festival and just the complete circus that was, and how that was beyond anything I could have imagined happening in Bissell Park in Elora. And some other cool stuff like Charles Bradley getting to play the festival and seeing Charles pick up a toad and talk to it in the middle of a crowd of people that all just like went dead silent because he was talking to a toad and saying hello to him and stuff. It was amazing. I don't know, Shawn, what else?
Well, and I agree, like artists like Charles Bradley or Sharon Jones or Tune Yards, like, though they, on some degree they're big artists, but they weren't necessarily mainstream. But to have them perform in Elora, that was a coup to our organization team, to have those types of folks and world-class singers, like artists. To me, it's amazing that we could have those types of artists in wee little Elora, and showcase that and show that we can, carry off that doesn't happen. You think that happens, that doesn't happen. So
it did happen though.
Yeah.
I think one of the highlights for me is one I brought up with you, Shawn, before. Brian, I don't know about you, but the very first year, the tree. I talk about the tree all the time. The tree with the little type notes that we hung on the tree. And that I was fairly new to the community, and I thought, this is the most romantic thing in the world. So, Brian, I don't know if you were at that, but you could write out, there was little tiny cards, and there's a little typewriter, and you could write out a little note and then put it on a string and hang it on the tree. And it was amazing. It was community. It was everything that I think it was the dreamiest part of the early days of this incredible festival. I'm kind of curious how you think this will affect other festivals in our community. Do you think everyone will just move over to the other ones, or do you think that like what do you think will happen locally and near locally to some of those festivals that we host in the summer?
Well, maybe I'll start, but as and Barb was probably aware of this, and I know Spencer was in tune sort of what happens in the community. There are over 130 events in our community, which is amazing for such a small place to have so many things going on all the time. I think obviously there'll be a little bit of a shuffle, but I my feeling that a lot of those events will continue to sort of move on, and that just speaks to the volunteers and to the folks that are behind these events. I have no doubt. Yes, will we be missed? Oh yeah, for sure we'll be missed. And will there someone come up and sort of do what we tried to do that way? People are very resourceful, so that may happen. And I wish all the best for all those groups. But again, it's really important that the community needs for these events to continue. You have to come out and support them. That's the only way that these things will survive. And I think in our thing, it's sort of like, you know, you might go, oh my God, we're really going to miss that. And I know that there's a good portion of the community will miss that. And so you always got to think that your support may be small, but it's a big deal for these events. And it's really important to come out and as best you can support them.
Right?
Well, it's certainly a great look and of the impact of what has been an amazing 15 years. If you could share just sort of one final word to the, you know, thousands of volunteers over these years and the fans who bought tickets each and every year, what would the final message you'd want to leave them with be?
Well, you know, the other part of it, Riverfest, and I just, you know, in terms of the impact on the community, the one thing that I think we were sort of definitely a leader in, we were supporting groups that were non-for-profit, like Save Our Water. We supported young musicians they started off the festival, hundreds and hundreds of young musicians we supported that way. We had a program where we planted, you poured your water into these trees and we planted those trees in the community. We did lots of upgrades to Bissell Park, and then of course all the volunteers that grew with us as well. And then we're hoping, you know, that volunteerism will continue on. So we definitely did have an impact on the community that way, along with the music. But it was very much a community event, and sometimes we did get some criticisms. But I would argue that our legacy was a lot. What we left there far exceeded what we took out of the community. So. Answer?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I would just say that, like, our you know, our team was small when I joined it. It grew by, you know, each of us bringing in a couple friends to help with different areas, and then they brought in a couple friends to help with different areas, and our core group and the overall volunteer team all are very close knit, and it feels like a family, and I'm very proud of what we were able to accomplish. You know, we put on, and I consistently hear this from other people in the industry when they come to Riverfest, that we put on a truly world-class event with all of these people who just cared about the community and cared about putting on this thing and making a difference in people's lives. And I think that is the most important takeaway for me about this, is that we definitely made everyone who was a part of it and everyone who just came to watch it, made everyone's life a little bit better every summer. And just thank you everybody for that, because
with this
amazing.
Closing, is there a new book?
I have no doubt there's things on the horizon. Our team, you know, I was talking to our festival manager, Sonia, about it yesterday. Was our team is still there. If I have no doubt that one or all or some of us are going to end up coming up with some ideas and running with it, and we're all going to end up working together on some level in the future.
I don't know about you, Ryan, but this could be one of the more emotionally charged podcasts that we've hosted since we started. What are you thinking?
Well, it's certainly glad that you both gave us your, you know, valuable time and insights through, you know, keep those that also are touched about Riverfest, keep them in your thoughts and sharing the wisdom that you have from this episode.
Bye, Riverfest.
Thank you so much for your time, both of you, and yeah,
Thank you.
Being the next show.
Thank you.